Politicians say that landlords are working together and using rental property software to drive up the cost of rent, but that is not the case. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it's going over this whole issue with RealPage. Right now, I don't use RealPage, but I've heard of it, and basically what it does is it helps people determine how much rent they should be charging for their rental properties, right? How much rent they can charge in an area, how much they can raise their rents. So anyway, these politicians, they heard about this software, and now they've come up with the odd conclusion that, oh, well, landlords must be working together to drive up the cost of rent by using this software and, creating, basically doing things that are wrong against renters, right? And that's just not the case. It's complete garbage. I believe that the lawsuit is crap, right? And that this is just one of those things that politicians are doing trying to get votes, okay? So the truth of the matter is that we use a lot of different softwares and, our own personal judgment, etc., in order to determine how much rent we should be charging. So even in a very large apartment complex, you are not going to always see rents being marked up to the highest possible rate that they could charge, because when it comes down to it, right, there's so many varying factors when it comes to how much rent you can charge. And it's not just about, what people are willing to pay. Sometimes it comes down to a lot of other things, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? Do you use any sort of software to help you determine how much rent you can charge for your units? I know I have used a Rentometer before in order to figure out, what properties we're renting for in my area so that I could make a good educated guess on how much rent I could get for my single family houses that I was renting here in Omaha, okay? So I don't do that anymore. Obviously, I have a property manager now, and they're the ones in charge of it. And I am monitoring them to make sure that the rents fall in line with what I believe is the going rate. But, when it comes down to it, they probably have a lot more information in terms of what the rents are in this area than I do, okay? Because they work in the business full time, and I'm just a part-time landlord, full-time law enforcement officer. So, I have my best educated guess on what the rents are. And like, for example, I had a recent vacancy, and I thought that the rents in the area were, a certain amount. And the new tenant that I got in there that my property manager used, found, they actually are paying a little bit higher than what I believed was the going rate. So, that benefits me. And I don't know if they used this software or not, but, I understand why landlords are using this. And I think that this is, kind of a BS thing where they don't want us using software to help us determine what the going rental rates are. So let's get into the article. This article is coming from abc13.com, and it says, is a Texas software company allowing landlords to work together and drive up the cost of rent? And the answer is no, of course not, okay? Now, obviously, it doesn't matter what the software says. It only matters what people are willing to pay. So let's get into the article and see what it says. Is a Texas software company allowing landlords to work together and drive up the price for renters? Congressional Democrats believe it might be, with 3 new class action lawsuits filed against RealPage, which is based in the Dallas area. RealPage's software, YieldStar, essentially takes market data from surrounding properties and uses it to come up with a recommended price for rent to landlords. It's used by rental properties throughout the country. The concern with the company is that it might be allowing property managers to overcharge on rent and take advantage of tenants. So they say, oh, it's allowing the property managers or the landlords to overcharge and take advantage of tenants. Now, how is that even possible? Okay, that's my real question. If the tenant does not have the ability to pay the rent, simply put, and there are no tenants available who can pay the going rate, then you won't be able to rent it at that rate. That's the way that free market economy works. Okay, what they're suggesting is that all of the landlords in an area are all using this software, right? And the software says, oh well, charging $2,500 a month rent, and the people, they have to pay it because they have no other choice. Well, that's just not the case. Okay, one, the even the most popular software, even if all the big landlords are using this RealPage, guess what? The small landlords are not using it. That's the first problem. The second thing is, if no one in the area has the ability to pay that higher rent, nobody's going to pay it, and the businesses have to react by lowering their asking rent amount so that they don't have a whole bunch of empty units. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the software says the rent's $2,500. If nobody's paying over $2,200, then your rent is going to be $2,200. So really, this is all it really does is it reflects what the market is capable of paying right now. Okay, and this is very beneficial to landlords because we don't like to leave money on the table. Okay, it is wrong to say, hey, the going rent for this area is $2,000 a month, but because I didn't have all the up-to-date information, etc., I was only charging $1,800 a month. You left $200 a month on the table, and that makes a huge difference in the future. When you're trying to pay your bills, or when we're talking about when you want to sell the property, and especially for a large multifamily, property's value is based upon the rental income that comes in. Okay, so it makes sense that large property managers want to be able to charge the most rents possible. Okay, they don't want to undercut themselves. The smaller guys, who own one or two properties, no big deal. But to me, none of this seems illegal. In fact, all of this is all about the market being free, and suggesting that landlords not be able to have the best tools possible in order to figure out what the going rate for rent should be in an area is kind of like saying, well, we want to set the rents. We want to decide how much landlords can charge. And if landlords charge too much, we want to be able to cut their, basically they want to implement rent controls, or basically turn housing into a thing that's completely controlled by the government. Heather Vogel, a reporter with ProPublica, published an extensive investigative report in October that looks into the history, growth, and concerns surrounding RealPage. Her report prompted at least 3 lawsuits against the company in the following weeks from San Diego and Seattle. Congressional Democrats also sent a letter Monday to the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission asking for an investigation. The concerns partly claim that the software was taking non-public data, such as actual rent prices in tenant leases, and allowing big property management companies to collude with one another. I interviewed experts that include antitrust lawyers and tenants who have been researching this. The fear is because of the way this software is designed and how it's used by so many, it's allowing landlords to essentially all raise their prices at once, Vogel told ABC 13. RealPage has actually encouraged landlords to accept a lower occupancy rate in exchange for raising rents. The concern there is that if you're doing that as a big company, you potentially have hundreds of apartments that are sitting vacant that otherwise would have been filled if the rent was lower. And RealPage, you know what? That's ridiculous, okay? Now, I don't know what kind of economics, there are different people who, they have different economic theories, right? But most of the landlords I talk to would rather have an occupied unit with lower paying tenants in it than a bunch of unoccupied units with higher, asking rents, okay? The lower the occupancy you have, the more money you're going to make. Okay, and that's the fact. I mean, I have experienced this myself, and I guarantee that most landlords are saying to themselves, hey, if I have, so many percentage more vacancy, then, just because I want higher rents, it's going to negate the fact that I have higher rents. So I might as well accept tenants making lower rent payments. So yeah, that argument there, it doesn't make sense. They can encourage it all they want, right? But most landlords are not operating like that. And the other issue I have is, right, we don't renew all of our leases at the exact same time. People move in at different points in the year. People have different length leases in all of my units. Okay. So it's not like, and I invest in more than one market. I invest in more than one neighborhood within the same city. So it's not like, well, a single family house is renting for $2,500 a month. So, like that doesn't mean anything. The condition of the property, the age of the property, the neighborhood it's located in. I mean, there's so many factors involved. And if we're looking at these large multifamily properties, I could see an argument, especially if they're very, very near each other, but there's still going to be so many different factors involved that make individual properties, with the rents at this property over here that's a luxury versus this one over here which is more basic or charging. Okay, so yeah, I don't agree that this software alone is responsible for the fact that rents are going up. The truth of the matter is, right, and you notice that they're getting sued by the city of Seattle and the city of San Diego, and both of those cities are extremely popular places with rent prices that shot through the roof. It wasn't the fact that these property management companies or landlords were using this software that caused the rents to go up. It was the fact that these were very popular places where a lot of people wanted to live, and that's what caused the rents to go up. Not only that, but they have shortages of available housing units. So that's what made the rents go up. Oh man, it's very frustrating reading this, because to me, the argument is that they want to be able to take away one of the best tools we have in order to figure out what rents we can charge in our properties. And I don't like that. I don't like them trying to take away, the tools that we use to run our businesses. I don't like them trying to control the prices and set how much our rents that we can charge are, and trying to make it as difficult as possible for us to be landlords. That's what seems to be the whole argument behind this. So yeah, interesting stuff. There's a lot more in this article. I'll put a link to the article in the description if you want to read the whole thing, but I thought I'd give a nice brief synopsis.